Marianne Goodfellow.
Could you tell me about yourself and your family in a few words?
I'm a native of upstate New York. I just recently retired from 10 and a half years at Lebanon Valley College to return to my childhood home. And I have a farm there that I'm doing some historic preservation on. It
How
was
many acres?
50 acres. It was built in 1880. And I just recently required a position as the Second Chance College Coordinator for Lebanon Valley College, that's my old college, for North Country Community College. So
Okay.
working with prisoners in two upstate prison settings to get their associate's degrees.
That's
So
wonderful.
I actually start that on Monday. So
Congratulations.
yes, I'm very excited about this.
Should be very rewarding.
Yes, I think so.
So I'm really curious about your farm. Are there crops or animals, or is it?
No, I joke with friends. It's animal-free farming,
Uh-huh.
but it has beautiful meadows that are leased out to local farmers for hay, crop, and oats, and that kind. So it's maintained as a farm.
That's wonderful.
But I really don't do any of the farming myself except for the gardening, and I have blueberries and raspberries and apple trees and fruits. So I do that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I understand at Lebanon Valley you were involved in social justice of sorts. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. In around 2012, Jenny Murphy Shiflett acquired a grant to train 4 facilitators in the Green Dot. And Green Dot is a violence prevention program, so to prevent sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking on college campuses. I admit when I first started, I really didn't know what I was getting into, but the program is targeted at the bystander. In a lot of situations where violence occurs, there are people who notice things, we call them red flags, and yet they fail to follow through on what they see and are passive, obviously letting violence occur. So what the Green Dot does is to try to educate young college men and women about the red flags of violent behavior. And
Can you give me a couple examples?
Of an incident?
Of a red flag.
Well, let's say at a party and they see a young woman who looks a little shy or reticent, and there's someone who's really pushing drinks on her. That would be a red flag of a potential sexual assault incident where the perpetrator is isolating the young woman from her peers, trying to encourage her to drink more than she should. That would be, something that someone should intervene and make sure she's okay. Is she comfortable with the situation? Just like we call it check-in. You may be mistaken, maybe everything is okay, but to think of someone that you love and what would you want them to do under those circumstances. So just to check in with her, make sure she's okay, and if she's not, try to get her out of the situation. So that would be moving from passive bystanding to active bystanding in prevention of a potential assault situation.
That's great. I know there's a viral video that I watched a couple of times where a man was aggressive with a woman and she was trying to fight back, and they were on a subway or a train, and another fellow who was a wrestler or something, but he had a bag of chips and he just walked between them and was eating the bag of chips, and another person picked up a video camera and started videotaping the incident and saying, everybody knows who you are and what you're doing.
Right.
Is that?
Absolutely. In fact, that's funny that you mentioned Chipman, because in the training, which is actually a 4-hour training, we use that video. Yeah, it's quite well known, that incident. Yes, he just moved himself in a very non-aggressive way to prevent the situation from escalating. So, yeah, so there are these kinds of things, and then we teach the students come to training. It's a 4-hour training. They learn about the red flags of sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking, and then we teach them the 3 Ds, which are mechanisms to intervene safely. So,
Can you summarize what the 3Ds are?
yeah, so the first would be to contact someone, to call someone, like an RA or 911 or, somebody that could, in authority. Like if one was fearful for your own safety, or the situation, it was a really big person and one was afraid, right? Or a person was shy, they could take that path. Then there's a distraction strategy. So at a party, spilling a drink and saying, "Oh, come with me, I'll help you get this cleaned up," or yelling out, "Hey, let's go get pizza," or some kind of a distraction that would take the attention off of the escalation of the incident. So I think the chip man was a distraction, eating the potato chips and just kind of diffusing the situation. Oh, and I did forget, the first was delegate, right? To delegate to the RA or the 911 or the bartender or whoever.
So delegate, distraction.
And then a direct intervention, right? So to just walk up to the person and say, this is inappropriate, or, so one has to have a higher level of confidence to, undertake that kind of thing. But if it's with a friend, or you're in a situation where there are other peers, where you can get someone to act with you, research has shown that if one person steps forward, other people are likely to do the same thing. So in a direct situation, one doesn't have to do it alone, right? One could get others to join in with. So there's another video that we use in training where they're in a park and they're kind of in play acting the assault scenario, and then 2 men rush in to kind of break it up. So the two guys together rather than one alone. So it doesn't have to be all on one's own.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to tell me, who's going to take your place when you go back to New York? Will this Green Dot program continue locally, the training?
Oh, thank goodness, yes. So I guess there are a couple reasons why I received this award. I was one of 4. I really was not alone in this. I do want to give credit to my colleagues at LVC who were part of the team that really made this happen. But I was initially one of 4. And we were doing this work on top of our already busy lives, as you might imagine. And especially that the trainings are usually on weekends, because it's hard to carve out 4 hours during the schedule for students. So I began to, as I was growing into understanding the importance of this program, realizing that we really were not at a level of sustainability. Right, that you can have a group of people who are just going to get burned out, right, very quickly. So along with some others, I participated in writing a grant that enabled us to get the President's Innovation Fund grant, from which Louis Thane is our president now, and this enabled us to offer a second training on campus. So we trained many, many more individuals, and in fact had other individuals from local colleges. I think Elizabethtown sent 4, and Franklin and Marshall and some other local colleges also came to training. So we were able to train an additional...
So you trained trainers.
Right, you train trainers. We're called facilitators. So this enlarged our pool of individuals. And then a second thing that we were able to accomplish was we were initially a task force of individuals, a few individuals, to get this off the ground. We then were able to turn this into a committee of the faculty that now has regular reporting lines to the faculty meetings, professional and business meetings, and the president, and is a viable committee that is in place for forever. It's called the
Sure.
Green Dot Violence Prevention Committee.
Wonderful.
So we moved from temporary status to permanent status, and we have a strong commitment from the president and other leaders on the campus, Greg Krikorian and others, that this is clearly an important program. It's very, very important to convey to families of students, to young women, that Lebanon Valley College is making a very strong commitment to maintaining a safe campus community for students where they can come and learn and feel that we care about them.
Well, thank you. Did I ask you, are you married? Do you have children?
I have 2 children. I have a son, Sean, and he's married, and he was in Chicago and is going to be moving to Colorado, and my little granddaughter is 1.5 years. So, and then my daughter does live here in Annville, and she will be coming today.
Wonderful.
So,
And what's her name?
Audrey.
Audrey.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sean, Sean, and Audrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also know that you are critical in organizing 5K events, and that you're an author. So you're a very well-educated and giving person. So what I would like to, your final question is, what words of advice would you give the next generation who are following you, might have an interest in what you've done in life, and would look up to you for some guidance?
Every human being has a right to, I actually looked it up, it's an inalienable right to live in an environment where you can feel secure and safe and not be threatened with, violence. And I think to live in such a world is really, it sounds like a lofty objective, but I think it could possibly be achievable. Maybe, not in our lifetime perhaps, but something, Martin Luther King said the arc of justice is long, but moves towards, that end goal. We obviously live in a time where, we need to keep working on this collectively, so we need to work together, right, to strive for this goal of, a world of peace where people can be free of harm, free of violence.
Thank you.